Ooh, I can stop falling like that. Okay, so Eddie's Eddie's gone. Guys, this is breaking news. Well, it's not breaking by the time I edit this, but right now it's breaking news. I don't know if you can see. I don't know if you can see. Eddie resigns as sporting director. Crazy. I don't know how to feel about that one. Okay, well, we're gonna figure that out in a wee bit. For now, let's actually start this episode. Welcome back to the Arsenal Humans podcast with me, Luce. This is the first official episode, so this is pretty much going to set the agenda of how it's going to look like every week going forwards, if we stick to the schedule, which, you know, I'm going to hold myself accountable for that. So here's a little run through of what's to expect from today's show. So I'm going to start each show with a little warm-up poll because I want it to be sort of different, but something that's like not too creative because, you know. So I'm going to go through a couple of polls today talking about where we think Arsenal, both men and women, will finish this season, which you might have seen if you follow me on Instagram, which is lucechats.sport, smooth plug. And then the main bulk of this, I want to talk about the games at the weekend. I mean, I don't want to talk about them because obviously we lost against Newcastle, rough. And then we also drew against United. So the men lost against Newcastle, the women drew to United. So it's not a great first episode for me to kick off on, but we need to talk about them because that's what I said I'll do, so I'm going to have to do it through thick and thin in that. And then I want to talk about who's going to be the manager for Arsenal women, and also the news, which I literally saw, as you saw at the beginning of this episode, as I sat down, Eddie's officially left. I mean, I was planning on putting it in anyways because obviously this shock rumour came out this morning, but it's actually happened within probably 10 hours of it actually being announced. He's fully resigned, so we're going to get into that. And then we're going to just round up the whole episode by chatting a little bit about the week ahead. We've got 3 fixtures. The men have got 2, the women have got 1, because obviously the men are playing the Champions League on Wednesday, which is tomorrow by the time this is out. So yeah, that is what is to expect this episode. So let's get into it. Okay, let's get into the polls. So I basically put on my Instagram story, you won't be able to see from there. I mean, you might have better eyesight than me, so you might be able to see. But I basically put, can Arsenal still win the Premier League? So obviously the men. And then I put another story of, can Arsenal still win the WSL? And obviously this came after a weekend where we got 1 point out of a potential 6 that we could have got. So when you put it like that, it's not the most encouraging, but it is so early into the season, and I know it is so early before I get people chatting about that because I'm aware. But I thought it was a good question to ask as my first one, just to see what people are thinking, basically. So this is 6 o'clock the day after, so it's been up for probably about 20 hours, this story. Had nearly 100 votes, and 52, the men's is pretty even, 52% think no, we won't win, gutting, but 48% do think we will still win. For me, I agree with this poll. Like, I do feel like it's pretty balanced. It is so early on in the season, but I think if you compare us to last season, and even the season before, we started off slow and then we became better. And I feel like last season we started off winning and we had that hope up until the end, to be honest. So I think this season, because we've already been dropping points and we've just not really been informed, there's been injuries, referee decisions. These might just seem like excuses, but that is stuff that's been happening. So overall, I do agree with the poll that it is very split, but I do also agree that it is leaning more towards a no, because I think you've got City. I know they lost this weekend against Bournemouth, but it's City. It's literally City. You can't rule them out of anything. Also, Liverpool with Arne Slot coming in, I was like, oh, maybe not as good as how Klopp was. But he's come in. Klopp left the team pretty nice, to be fair. So he's sort of come in, easy job. I could not do that. But he's come in an easier position than, say, the new United manager, because that is a rough situation that they've been left in. But they've come in, I think, He's done a great job with them, and at the moment I do think it is Liverpool and City. It's a 2-horse race. Arsenal just trailing a little bit behind, but I kind of hope we stay a little bit here, just a little bit lower, just so that the media pressure and the external pressure isn't on us, because I think that's what made us crack last season and the season before. But we're doing well, and it is early days, so moving on to the WSL. This one isn't as split. I'm going to be real with you. So this one had slightly less votes, just under 90 votes, and 34% said yes, Arsenal can still win the WSL, but 66% of people said no, we can't. And the people don't lie. I'm going to have to agree with my followers here, because I just think you look at Chelsea, and at the start of the season I was scared of how good they were, whereas now I'm just getting frustrated at how good they are, because they could be, it's 0-0, I look at my phone notification, I'm like, okay, cool, it's 0-0, and then suddenly I look back and it's like 10-0 in the space of like 2 minutes, it feels like. So somehow they managed to find the net, and I think even if we managed to get our points up there, our goal difference already this early on after a couple of months is nowhere near what theirs is. So I think, yes, they are leading. I do think that City, if they can win both their games with Chelsea, if City can go on to basically have an unbeaten streak, they'll definitely be competing. But same with the men's. I feel like Arsenal sort of sitting in that 3rd to 5th position in both tables, to be fair. So we'll see. It is early days, but I think as well with Arsenal, now we've got rid of Jonas Edeval, maybe we've got some fresh eyes looking at the game, looking at the team. Hopefully, obviously we've got Renee Slager now, but who knows who we're going to get in, or whether she'll stay, or what the vibe is going to be like. So yeah, I do agree with these polls. Thank you to anyone that voted. It feels a little bit fresh saying that. But yeah, it just helps. So also, if you see any polls going forwards around a Sunday or Monday, guarantee it's going to be for this podcast. So if you want to give a cheeky vote, then that would help you go out. But overall, I agree with those polls. Sadly, very, very sadly, but we'll see. But anyways, that is the end of the little poll section. I feel like that was a lot quicker than I thought it'd be. That's quite nice though. It probably actually hasn't felt quick for a listener. But anyways, we're going to move on now to the topics, and we're going to start off, sadly, with Newcastle 1, Arsenal 0. Right, I'm going to start off this little section with a lovely quote that Arteta said after the game. We deserve to lose. How humbling is that? On a real, sorry if you're an audio listener, I've just moved back into my seat because I want to get comfy for this one. I'm not very comfy though. Okay, there we go. I just think it is really humbling. I'm going to be real though, going into that game, I was thinking, right, a draw would have been amazing, because obviously when you're playing away, Newcastle with their form can be a little bit inconsistent, but they've got Isaac, who obviously scored against us, who is unreal. Someone that I wish we could have got. I know for Arsenal, our biggest issue right now for the men's side is we don't have an out-and-out striker, and someone like him would have been perfect, but I'm not going to take it away from Newcastle because they worked hard to get him and they deserve to keep him. I think his contract's till 2027, 2028. So honestly, they've done very well with that signing, and almost I envy it because we could have someone like that. I don't really know why we didn't. Maybe it could be down to Edu, so maybe some people might think it's good that he's gone, but we'll get into that later on. But yeah, I'm just looking at some few notes that I made for this Newcastle game, and it is really tricky because we are so early on and you're going to have slip-ups. Newcastle played their best performance, in my opinion, that I think they've played this season so far. So I think it is really tricky when you're playing like that, when you're playing from home, getting an early goal, that header by Isaac. I think it almost sets the tone for the game, and we're on the back foot, which normally we're able to try and find our way back through, but I think it just sort of shut us out from the get-go. So yeah, my notes aren't too positive. Okay, we're going to go with a couple of negatives, because obviously I haven't said enough. We are missing Odegaard, which I think is our biggest issue. that we can't rely that much on a player. I mean, what he does off the ball, I think, is what makes him so great, because how he reads the play, getting into those spaces, and just really creating and controlling the midfield spaces, which is amazing when he's on the pitch. When he's not on the pitch, we do suffer. I do think it meant that Declan Rice, praise him, because he had to mop up a lot at the back. He had to sort out a lot of the balls that were coming in, which maybe Ødegaard would have got to before it got to Rice. But I think since Rice has come into the team, he's done that. He's really carried the team, I feel like. And he's been one of our better players. So that is a good positive to come out of this game as well. I think as well, it's gutting that we're getting this performance, or this result actually. Let's forget about the performance, just focus on the result. It's gutting we're getting this result when you look at our team. Our bench is really good. We're getting so many youngsters coming on in Carabao Cups, scoring goals, but also now they're coming on in other games as well, which is really encouraging to see that the next generation of Gunners is really good. Gunners? The next generation of Gunners is really good. But I think it's just so annoying when you're seeing these results and you know that we could do it, but something's just not clicking. And it is in that final third, which I think is echoed in the women's team as well, because you're getting there and you're supplying those balls, but then you maybe don't have an out-and-out striker or someone who's that direct. And I think we need that, someone who's direct, which obviously Isaac, someone like that who we're playing against, he was at the time. So I think that's something definitely we need to work on. But as a whole, it is really early days. I don't want people ruling it out. I know if you go back to that poll, people sort of are, but that's not just based on this game. Also, someone was saying, I saw some people like tweet and comment to get Arteta out, and I was like, is this a joke? Has April come early? Because I was so shocked, because Arteta is so good for Arsenal. He's worn the shirt. He's so good with how he interacts with the players. Obviously, when he was working alongside Eddie, that seemed to work well with the signings they got in. Obviously, talk about that in a bit, in more detail. But I think it's just really frustrating when I see that fans are straight up like, no, get rid. Don't get me wrong, there was so much hate towards Jonas Edeval if you look at the women's side of the game. And at one, like, there were moments where I was like, guys, we need to actually relax with this hate, because he knows he's not going to stay that job for any longer. The players all know that they don't want him, but you don't need to make it almost in a bullying way and a hateful way. It's just fans' automatic response of like, right, we've lost, get them out. Which it's so annoying. I keep saying frustrating, but it is just so frustrating and annoying that it's so interchangeable with managers. I don't think that it should be like that. But that is how it is, sadly. But yeah, any of that rubbish about Arteta getting out, shut up. Just stop talking. Because yeah, he may have lost this game, but we'll roll on next week. We've got 2 fixtures coming this week, so I'm excited, and yeah, we'll just focus on that. So we'll see what happens. But we're going to focus on the United game, 1-1 with Arsenal. Okay, so focusing on Renée Slegers' side, and this is one of her first few games that she's been in charge since obviously Jonas Edeval left, and I think she's doing a pretty good job. I'm going to chat more about her as a whole, and obviously who I think is going to be suited for that position. But yeah, there's not really anything bad I can say about her. I feel like she's coming at a very tricky time. We're struggling to find the net in many games. We're getting close to them. We're getting opportunities. I was sat right behind the goal, Chelsea Arsenal. Yeah, I realised I was picturing it, but not telling you guys what it is. Sat Chelsea Arsenal at the Emirates, right behind the goal. We literally, especially in the last 15 minutes, we've never played that good this season. Like, that is the best performance I've seen those 15 minutes. But we just couldn't find the net, and I know Chelsea have an unreal defence, so maybe that is part of the reason why. But I think there is another part of just we're not being as direct, or we're just not taking our chances and almost doing too many touches. And I think with this United Arsenal game that we saw 1-1 draw, I think that is another reason why it ended up as a draw. We should have won that. 100% should have won that. But saying that, I don't want to disregard United, because I think when the focus is so much on Chelsea, City, Arsenal, we forget that United are doing really well this season. I think it is just really hard when you're not in the top 3 for the last couple of seasons, and obviously they've had so many issues off the pitch as well, with the men's lack of support and just all these different scenarios, with losing players like Mary Earps, but then also losing players like Nikita Paris, but then they're gaining players like Grace Clinton. So I think it's been a mixture for them, a mixed side, but generally I think they've had a really good season so far. So for them, they probably were thinking, we're on home turf, we should have got that win against us, and for us, we're thinking we should get that win because we need to prove us. I think our history, which is why so many people are so heavily involved with Arsenal Women's, we've got arguably the biggest, we've got the biggest fan base in the WSL. There's no arguing about it. We do have that, and that's because of our trophy field history and the success that we were able to bring those crowds in. But when you're not performing on the pitch, it does make it trickier to be as enthusiastic about the team, obviously. But I think it was just really good to see Russo. She's one player that I want to pick out. Obviously, she scored the goal for us, but it was a relief for me. I felt like watching. Obviously, she scored in the Champions League game last week or a couple of weeks back. I forgot when it was now, which was really good because I felt like she almost had lost that spark to her. And I don't know whether that was to do with the manager we had or the players around her, her game time. There could be so many different factors, but it was great to see her back on that score sheet. She did have a few chances before, so maybe if we're talking about her being clinical, maybe we could be a little bit critical about why she didn't take them sooner, why they didn't find the net. But I think as a whole, it's just great that she got her name on the score sheet. In her post-match interview, Renée Slegers was really positive about her, which is really encouraging, I think, as well. And it's good to see there's a nice relationship between the interim manager, whether she stays or doesn't. She's there for the next 4 games at least, so it'll be good to see what happens with that. But yeah, overall, I think views in the game, if you told me that we'd get a draw with United away at the start of the season, I would have been happy with that because United do have a good profile in the WSL and they are a good team to look out for. But then when you're realising that we've lost points that we shouldn't have drawn against Everton, we shouldn't have lost against Chelsea, we should have drawn to Chelsea. Not won, but drawn. So when you're dropping points that you know you shouldn't have, I think it's really frustrating. That is actually, frustrating is the word of this pod. This episode is the word frustrating because it is just gutting to see that we go out there, we give it our all, but then you still come away losing 2 points that you potentially could have got. And maybe 4 or 5 years ago that wouldn't have happened, but now it seems the norm, and I'm loving that women's football as a whole, the WSL, all the teams are getting more competitive at the top, so it makes it trickier, but it is just really frustrating and gutting. Just gonna say my adjectives. Considering I did journalism at uni, my adjectives are quite limited, just a bit deep. But yeah, it is just a bit frustrating, both the men losing and the women drawing. But I think we've just got to spin it and think we've got some games before the men's international break, and we've got a couple of games that I think the women can get some points from, if not all the points. So we're just going to have to turn our attention to that and see what happens. But before we do that, before I look at the predictions, I do sort of just want to focus on Renée Slegers and her role. So I'll join you in a sec. Okay, perfect. Welcome back. It's like you never left. Arsenal women manager situation. That is what I've titled it. And it is a situation and a half because there's been so many names rumoured, so many people that might go with Arsenal, so many people that... I feel like people are almost just plucking out names from thin air at one point, and I was like, where are these names coming from? I know I heard Jack Wilshere at one point, and I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. Arsenal connection. Used to literally be like him and Kim Little growing up were like my 2 favourites because I wanted to be a midfielder. Didn't obviously work out. But they were like my 2 favourites. So I was like, oh my God, amazing. Like Jack Wilshere, that'd be crazy. But obviously he's gone to Norwich, I'm pretty sure. So he's out of that equation. And also I do feel like something that a lot of fans have been saying, the consensus is we'd like a woman in this role. And I think that would be suitable because you saw what Emma Hayes did with Chelsea women when she was there. Not necessarily because she was woman, but I think she just had that understanding of their training. She had an app based on like periods and nutrition, and I think just having that knowledge of the game. And then with Sonia Bonpastor, I think it's been really good to see an ex-player coming in. You see it with Serena Wiegman as well for the Lionesses, having someone who's been in those positions, playing in those international tournaments or at club level, and then they're able to coach it. It does seem to work. So I think when we're focusing on Arsenal women, I'd like to see someone like Casey Stoney in there. I've said it from the minute I found out that Jonas Eidevall got sacked or resigned. Let me not misquote myself. He resigned because I just think Casey Stoney, for me personally, she's someone that I used to watch when I first got into Arsenal women. So she's got that Arsenal roots. She's got that Arsenal heritage in her. Also, she's been a player, obviously, by playing for them. So I think being a player, you understand the game in a different way, and she'll be able to relate to the players and what they want. Obviously, it's a different time now. I think social media, and there's so many different factors that obviously affect it. But I think definitely she'd be great for the role. Also, if you look at her history by coaching United women, she's already had rapport with people like Russo, and I think that is great coming into a team where it's not all new people or strangers, especially halfway through season, it can become a bit disjointed. So I think if she's already got those connections, everyone already knows who she is. She's already been to Arsenal games. When I left the Emirates for the Arsenal-Chelsea game a few weeks back, I walked past her on my way out and I was like, oh my gosh, like it's Casey Stoney. So it got me thinking, yeah, she'd be great for that role. And then obviously a week later, Eidevall had then resigned. Got it right that time. So I think she'd be ideally the perfect one. But I don't want to rule out Renee Slager because right now she seems to be doing a good job. Yes, I know she would have been gutted that she didn't get the win on Sunday, but I think she's done a great job so far with the team. I know that there's always, when a new manager comes in, the team suddenly just performs amazing because it's like, yeah, just to prove the old manager wrong, and then they can kind of get complacent back into that old form. So it'll be interesting to see after her 4 games, so in the next month, by December, we'll basically be able to figure out, is she a good fit for us, is she not? But overall, I think it's just really annoying that we're constantly having to talk about all these different managers, but I knew I had to include it in the first pod because it has been the biggest topic in the women's game for Arsenal right now. The uncertainty, but hopefully having her creates a little bit of stability. And yeah, let's focus on keeping her for the moment, keeping Arteta, because we've got enough worry with the women's side. Let's not worry ourselves with the men's side, and let's see if we can stick with that to create some stability. Where there's not stability, however, is with Edu, as he obviously has resigned today as sporting director of Arsenal as a whole. So he's overseen both the men's and the women's signings since 2019 when he joined, so for the last 4 or 5 seasons. So let's get into that topic. Okay, so let's look to Edu and the impact that he's had over the last 4 or 5 years. Apparently he's rumoured to go to Nottingham Forest potentially, or he might even go somewhere else. Not sure right now. Maybe when this is posted we might have an answer, but for the moment all we know is that he's left Arsenal, and that's all we need to know. This is the Arsenal Humans podcast. All we need to know is the Arsenal vibe, and I just kind of wanted to firstly touch upon the signings that Edu has made alongside Arteta since joining. In particular, starting off with Declan Rice, who was for £105 million, a lot of dollar, a lot of money. But I think it's proved to be worth it. Well, I know it's proved to be worth it. There's no thought about it. And I think that was a great signing that no one really saw coming until just before it fully happened. For me, my journey into supporting Arsenal women started when I was 10. And for Arsenal men, I followed them a bit more loosely. And then I started following them actively, watching games on a regular basis and talking about it with people probably about 3-4 years ago. So I think when I look at when I've intensely supported Arsenal men as well as the women's side, it's been with Edu there. So these signings like Declan Rice, Havertz, Ben White, Thomas Partey, Jesus, list goes on. These signings for me feel like they've always been part of the team, or I feel like I've been really part of it when they've been announced or when they've been rumoured, especially the likes of Timber as well, I forgot to mention, because I was really rooting to get him in, and then we got him in. Obviously he got injured, but now he seems to be doing okay. So I think just looking at all of these players, it is great to see the variety of players he's got in. Obviously it's not just down to him, and we can't give him all the credit because there's going to be loads of other people in the background that help support these decisions and these transfers. Obviously Arteta would have had a big say in the men's, and then Jonas Eidevall would have had a big say in the women's. But generally I am impressed with the signings he managed to make. Obviously Ødegaard came in August 21. Forgot he literally came here from Real Madrid, which is crazy transfer for us and proved to be such a crucial transfer that when he's not on the pitch, we're really missing him. So I think when you look at this, you see some really great signings for us. So I think moving forwards, yes, there is going to be a bit of a gap, especially with Arteta and Edu. We know that they've formed a great friendship off the pitch as well, away from football, which is what Edu mentioned in his statement that he gave today. So I think it is just really, it's really sad to see him go, and what could have been potentially if he stayed around, and who we could have signed in the future maybe with his support. But there is also that part of me that knows we needed an out-and-out striker for the men's side, and he didn't provide that or didn't help support with that. So when we're focusing on just the signings that he helped, he didn't help to do that one. I know obviously he got Havertz in, and I felt like Havertz was almost lost at Chelsea when he wasn't playing a striker, and then putting him as striker, he seemed to do a lot better. Not obviously, but if you've seen my content before, you'll know that I preferred Havertz being up top anyways, rather than in the midfield, because it became too crowded. He didn't really support Rice or Odegaard as much as I feel like he should have. Whereas up top, I do like him, but he's not as direct and clinical as potentially we've got Isak on another team, or even Ivan Toney. I wanted him at one point before he obviously went to Saudi. So I think it is just a bit annoying about that. But as a whole, I am impressed with what he's done. I think as well, focusing on the women's side, we've had a lot of great players. I know Edeval would have had a lot of influence over the Swedish players that came in potentially. We've had some great players come in just this season, like Marona Caldenti. She's been performing amazingly. She's been unreal. How she controls the ball, I'm in complete awe of it. I think even being able to have the rumours of Kira Walsh, but then maybe that could be a criticism actually saying that now, because he wasn't able to get that one over the line. Which for me, I don't really think the timing was right. Maybe at Christmas that might happen with a new sporting director and a new manager potentially. For Arsenal, a lot of change actually on the women's side when you think about it. But I do think, I think he will be missed from the club, unless he had a say in the Miedemar leaving. If he had a say in Miedemar leaving, then good riddance. But no, I'm joking, because he actually, you can tell as a whole, it is sad. I think the consensus of Arsenal fans that I've been chatting to throughout the day and messaging is that we're all just a bit shocked. I think as well because it's not the manager, so that it's not someone that's got a direct impact, or it's not a player leaving all of a sudden, because it is someone a bit more behind the scenes. It's a bit uncertain, and it wasn't completely clear why. Maybe when this has come out, there might be some reasons why, but for the moment, we don't know why basically it happened. So we'll just have to see who comes in now. I think that's the next focus for us all, to look at who are we going to get in as sporting director, because in my opinion they do have big boots to fill, because when you look at the signings that we've got in, but maybe they might just be able to fill them and do that little bit extra so that we can get those clinical goal scorers up top, or at least provide some other players to then supply those balls to them, if you get what I'm saying. But so that is the 4 topics that I've covered. It's been quite brief, but I hope you sort of get my vibe. I'm going to see if in the future I want to add more detail to these topics, or even strip them back a bit if I'm just waffling a lot, but we'll see. So we're going to get on to my predictions for the games coming up, the 3 games coming up. So let's get into that one. Hey, so it's actually Lucy in the future right now. Realised I didn't actually click on the microphone because I'm an idiot. So this next section is going to be a little bit more muffly, less clicking, which has been annoying me anyways, but this is the first episode, so enjoy the rest of this, and then from next week I'll try my best to make it better. Hope you're enjoying it. Okay, it's come to the final part of the first episode, which was kind of crazy because I've literally just been waffling, sat here on my beanbag for about an hour now. You won't see all of it because it's a lot of waffle, but anyway, so we're at the final section, and it's about the predictions and what I think is going to happen for Arsenal as a whole moving forwards this season. Let me just get comfy again. I don't know why I keep moving, I'm so fidgety. So we've got 3 games. The first game is tomorrow, Wednesday the 6th of November, which is Inter Milan versus Arsenal in the Champions League. The second game is Arsenal versus Brighton in the WSL, which is on Friday at the Emirates. And then the third match comes at the weekend on Sunday, which is Chelsea versus Arsenal in the Premier League. So we've basically got a game every other day this week, which I think is so lush, so nice. So when you watch, if you support Arsenal, you really live in it because you've got 3 games back to back basically. In terms of predictions, for Arsenal, the Champions League, it's going to be our toughest game that we've had to play this season in the Champions League. Inter Milan, obviously a good side. Arsenal are hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll have our captain back as well in the starting lineup. He's set to return, but obviously sometimes they say that and then it doesn't actually happen. We will have some other players out, but I'm thinking if we've got Odegaard back, I reckon we could get the 3 points, but I don't want to get too ahead of myself, because I feel like when I used to do predictions on a weekly basis in like first, second year of uni, I would really get ahead of myself and be like, yeah, we're going to win everything. And then I'm like, yeah, Arsenal are going to win the whole league. And it just is stupid. It's not even clickbaity because it's actually what I just thought. So I don't want to be as delulu. So I'm going to say 1-0, but if we have Odegaard playing, then we'll shift it to 2-1. I think that player's got such a big impact. So I've become his #1 fan in this pod apparently. But I think if we've got him, then the likes of Havertz, I see it being like Havertz, Saka, Martinelli. Saka, Havertz, Martinelli up top. So I think if we've got Odegaard or Rice to supply those balls forward, there's no reason why we shouldn't be getting on the score sheet at least a couple of times. So realistically, we're going to stick with 1-0 because it is a good side and we are away. But if Odegaard's playing and we've got Havertz up top and the team that I've sort of pictured in my head, then I think 2-1. So, we're going to start with a nice little optimistic one. Arsenal versus Brighton on Friday. I'm taking my dad with me, which will be cute because I don't think I've been to the Emirates with him this season. Because I've got the home, I think it's quite clever what I've done. I've got the home advantage pack. Is that what it's called? Yeah. But I brought 2 of them. I got my sister to make a membership so that I could get 2. And basically each game I just bring a different person with me. Because I've got so many friends. Nah, on a real, it's literally just because I thought it was just easier to do it that way, to guarantee 2 seats next to each other, because now it's heating up at the Emirates for the women's side. We've got people dotted around that are going to the game together because it is getting so popular, and it already is so popular, but it's staying there, which is really good to see. But I just wanted to secure 2 seats next to each other. Anyways, that is irrelevant. Arsenal versus Brighton on Friday. I'm thinking 3-1. I think with their season they've had so far, Brighton are looking good. Like, we shouldn't just rule Brighton out. Even though in the past few seasons, yes, maybe they were in the relegation zone, in my opinion, with the likes of West Ham or whoever actually did get relegated. But I think this season they are actually staying in the mid, around the Spurs area. I'd kind of class them in the same category. And I think they're getting the results. Like, they've got Nikita Parrish, she's doing great. Frank Kirby doing great. I think it's really good to see the players with a lot of experience bringing that into the squad. So I don't want to rule them out, so that's why I don't think we'll keep a clean sheet. Even though I do rate Van Domselaar a lot and I reckon she'll be playing over Zinsberg. I feel like Zinsberger's only playing certain games and her form sort of is a little bit more inconsistent, in my opinion anyways. She's a good player, like a great player, and has been, but I think in more recent seasons she's sort of dropping off a little bit in compared to where she was at, which obviously just proves how good she was at one point, but now I think it is just a little bit inconsistent, to put it bluntly. So I think Van Domselaar probably won't keep a clean sheet because it's Brighton, but I reckon we'll be able to, if Russo's playing how she's been playing the last couple of games, I reckon we'll be able to find that score sheet. So 3-1, I'm feeling confident it's going to be a good night out, hoping not too cold, but I'm very excited about that. And the final game, which is on Sunday, is away to Chelsea, so it's a little bit of a London derby, and I'm a little bit nervous for this one because obviously Palmer is known to play better at home. Cold Palmer, whatever you want to call him, he's scoring goals like there's no tomorrow. When he's at home, that is the crucial phrase, because he is good when he's away, but I think he just really feels at home and he's just really comes alive even more so, and having that impact, someone that is definitely one of the best
one of the better attackers in the Premier League right now. So it's really going to put our defence to work. But we've got Gabriel and Saliba, who for me are such a solid duo, and I know that so many people agree that they literally are one of the best defensive duos we have in the Premier League. So there's no doubt that we'll be able to sort that matter out. I do think that Chelsea, they're on a good form right now. We need to get back on that good form. So I'm going to say, because Chelsea's defence is probably their weakest part, and our attack is probably, because we don't have an out-and-out striker, I feel like it sort of evens it up a little bit. So realistically, I've two always going around in my head, but I want to say 3-2 Arsenal, because I think this is a game where we can prove ourselves and we can really say that we're back. We want this. So yeah, why not? Let's go 3-2 for that game. I feel like that sounds about right. So I basically just said we're going to win everything, even though I started this section by saying I wanted to be more realistic. So yeah, we'll see how this goes. Well, the good thing is you'll be able to find out my reaction next Tuesday after all 3 of these games have happened, because I'll be reflecting on the games as well as talking about the next games and probably being more delusional. I can't even say it. Being more delusional about those following games. So we will see, but that is the vibe. That's the vibe for now. Nice. Right, okay, I can't believe I've done it. I feel like I've literally had this podcast idea in my notes for so long now. So I'm so happy that I've finally done my first full episode. Hope you guys have enjoyed watching it. It's literally just been me waffling about Arsenal, so I hope you're ready for this every week going forwards, because probably won't really change it that much. But yeah, I've really enjoyed doing this, and it feels a nice way to consolidate everything that's happened in a week, whether that's men's, women's, whatever's been going on. It's been a nice way to put that into some words, so I hope you guys have enjoyed that as well. And if you have, here's the little cringy part, but just like, subscribe, and also if you're an audio listener, make sure you're following me on Spotify, and if you're watching it, go follow me on Spotify, and if you're on Spotify, why don't you go look at the visuals and you'll be able to see the cute little props, books and scarves and a beanbag, you know, all the things you want to see on YouTube. So yeah, thank you for watching. I don't know how to end it, so I'm just going to stop talking. Okay, ciao.